The opinions and views expressed in the following program are those of the speakers and the host, and do not necessarily reflect those of Yoakley Scott Corporation and your sports network.
Yeah, I've been closer to Jesus before, so can you help me out? Oh, can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? But can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? Or can you help me out? Can you help me out? I've been scared to look in my soul. I've been afraid I would follow the road. Yeah, afraid of the things I've been told.
What is happening, party people? It is Anthony Hartwig with you. Welcome into a Friday edition of Running Point on ysnlive.com. Brought to you, as always, by our good friends over at Greenwood Chevrolet in Austin Town. They go the extra mile for you. We try to do the same on this show every day. As always, every day we thank them for their constant support of not just this show, but everything that we do on YSN. We certainly couldn't do it without Greenwood Chevrolet and our other wonderful sponsors that help us bring everything that we do to you, our loyal and faithful audience. We thank you for tuning in today. It's the end of the week. It's Friday. We got a good show for you planned today. We're going to be talking about last night's games, regional semifinal for the boys, state semifinal for the girls. Unfortunately, spoiler alert, it did not go YSN's way last night. But we're still going to talk about it. We're still going to go over kind of what went right for the teams in the game, what went wrong for the teams in the game, reflect on their seasons like we always do when we end seasons. We're also going to be talking about the postseason awards that we are announcing today, which is Coach of the Year for both girls and boys and Team of the Year for both girls and boys. Those are our last postseason awards. We will announce them a little bit later on in the show as well. Then we got to also preview the game tonight. There's one more basketball team alive in the YSN network. It is Hoban. They will go up against Walsh Jesuit tonight in the regional finals at Kent State University for a chance to punch for their ticket to Dayton and do this whole ride again on the boys' side next weekend. So we got a lot kind of good to go over. Obviously, since girls basketball is over, it's also softball season. So yay, I'm happy. We're going to have a softball right there for the next couple months. Maybe we'll switch them out all the time. Like maybe we'll have a little fan contest to see if you can keep up with how many softballs I have on my desk. We'll switch them out and see if you can tell when they switch out, because they're all autographs. So if you pay attention, you can see them switching out and hey, who knows? But yeah, it's softball season now. Girls are done. Boys will go into baseball. We'll really dive into baseball season with one more basketball team left. We want to try to give them the limelight. But next week is when we really dive into previews of baseball and softball. I know Matt Morrison on the show before us at Talk More with Matt Morrison had a couple of baseball previews. Can't wait to post those on the website for you guys. He talked to Badger and Middle Ridge baseball with Bill Hamilton and Anthony Ragazine, both great interviews. We've talked to both of them before on Running Point. They're great coaches. So I'm going to have a chance to post those on the website as well. So it is really time to dive into the previews of baseball and softball season. And next week, for sure, we will be doing a deep dive into that. And hopefully we'll also be talking about a little bit of a state tournament, because we have one more team trying to punch their ticket. But that's all in the future. That's all coming up. What we want to start off with is, of course, the recap of last night's action. We will start on the girls' side. The stage was Dayton. It was a state semifinal, and one of the things that was a storyline going into this game before the tip even happened was both these teams were making their first trip to the state tournament in program history, and they were not alone at all. I mean, I've talked about it before. We've brought it up 7 out of 16 of the state semifinalists in girls basketball this season were making their first trip to a state tournament. So that's a big, big step for a lot of programs. These two were two of them making that first step as a program, getting back to state. Unfortunately, only one team could continue that historic run and make their first, obviously, their first trip to a state championship. And when you were listening to that game, hopefully you were tuning into us, me and Noah Doty on the call for the Yorkcast. It started off, it kind of looked like a game where we could tell that both programs were making their first trip to state. That first quarter was filled with a lot of kind of nerves and jitterness, and I think a lot of missed opportunities on both sides. I think Toledo Christian had an opportunity to kind of really blow up in the first quarter. They had a couple of wide open looks from the perimeter that didn't fall for them after hitting their first three, by the way. They hit their first three really quick. One of their first couple of possessions, a three just banged in, and you thought they were going to find a rhythm really quick after that. They didn't. Springfield, same kind of way. They scored pretty quickly, answering that three, getting right on the board with a Mariano Toscano three. They both teams opened the game with a three for their offense. But I think after that, I don't think that was enough to stop the jitterness of the stage. It felt like in that first quarter they were both trying to find their footing. Springfield missed a couple of open looks down low, or some opportunities they had with some drives that just didn't go in. And when you're playing at this level, you're playing at the state semifinals, and obviously the team across from you deserves to be there in every way, shape, and form, and they're a great basketball team. Every opportunity gets magnified. Like, you got to take advantage of the ones you get, because this team is so good, you don't get a lot of them. Like, that's what you have to be thinking on your side, whether you're Toledo Christian, Springfield, anyone playing in the state semifinals. You have to know that team that you're looking across and the other bench is so good that giving up opportunities does not happen too often. And when you get them, you have to take them. And I think that was one of the big, big storylines of the game last night, especially as it developed into the second quarter, into the second half. You saw Springfield continue to miss a couple of opportunities to stay in the game, stay competitive. And you saw Toledo Christian start to capitalize on opportunities, start to force a few live ball turnovers, get a few open layups, hit a few more little mid-range jump shots. And once they got their feet under them, the talent level of this team really took over. They were hitting some really ridiculously tough shots in the second half that made me and Noah Doty just kind of speechless at what we were watching. I mean, Butler, Braden, and Davis were a three-headed monster that are the real deal. I was especially impressed with Butler because I'm going to get her full name real quick. I just want to make sure but especially impressed with her. I was talking to Noah Doty on the broadcast last night. If you were able to tune in and hear it, like, some of the plays she made, I honestly believe, like, it was funny because they were obviously playing on a Division I basketball floor, and I was saying she's making Division I basketball type plays. Some of the mid-range pull-ups she had, and there were some plays that she made that I was telling Noah they're just simply unguardable. When an offensive player makes a play like that, you can't defend it. You can't defend good offense, and that's what she was last night. But she had 19. The leading scorer was Braden with 21. Trying to just scrolling through getting the live stats. I love the state semifinals because the OHSA gives a really in-depth stat report from the game, so you get a lot to break down. But Kaylona Butler, wow, what a player! I had so much fun being able to watch her live. But she finished with 19 points, 8 rebounds, only one personal foul. Played really good, clean defense as well. You don't want to make that overshadowed. 6 for 8 to the free throw line, 1 for 2 from 3-point land. I mean, phenomenal basketball player. And then her teammate Kendall Braden was right in front of her with 21 points. But just one, I feel like Butler filled the stat sheet a little bit more. Obviously, 19 and 8. Five of those being defensive, 3 of them being offensive. Braden was pretty much just, we're going to score a lot of points. 21 points. She only had 1 rebound, 1 3-pointer. She was 9 for 20 from the floor. Got 2 steals, so she was a good on the defensive side. But man, those two are going to be really good. And then I thought when we were talking with Noah Doty yesterday previewing the game, I really thought Mackenzie Royal Davis would be the biggest problem for Springfield because of her height and her ability. But I thought Springfield played pretty good defense against a 6-foot post player, junior, for Toledo Christian. You look at Royal Davis's stats, just 6 points and only, I want to get a rebound total real quick, 6 points and only 5 rebounds. She averages a double-double. So to keep her out of there as much as they did, I think Springfield had a lot of attention given to her, and they probably thought exactly what me and Noah thought going into this game, that she was going to be a real big trouble spot. So Springfield maybe kind of over adjusted to her, because obviously Braden and Butler kind of took advantage of the fact that they were focusing in so much on Royal Davis. They kind of went off with 21 and 19. So when you're looking at these stats, by the way, I said it again, I love that we get these in-depth stats right away from the OHSAA in the state tournament. Story. Excuse me. Biggest takeaway of the game last night, in my opinion, and the biggest difference, especially on the stat sheet, it really pops out. Biggest difference: 17 turnovers for Springfield, only 4 for Toledo Christian. Outside of that, and that's a big stat, that's a big stat. That's obviously giving a good team 17 extra possessions. Most of these stats are pretty even. I mean, a rebounding category, they both had 31 rebounds, so neither team had a rebounding edge. Overall, Toledo Christian shot a little bit better from the floor. Their total team percentage shooting-wise was 39%, which isn't great. Like 39% isn't a great field goal percentage. They held the Tigers to about 29%. So field goal percentage a little bit up for Toledo Christian, not enough that I would say it was the absolute difference in the game. I think the biggest difference was turnovers. Absolutely. When your turnover margin is 17-4 in a game like this, all those get magnified. They really do. We talked about it yesterday when we were talking about this stage. When a couple of mistakes are made early, sometimes, especially if it's your first time on the stage, they can really snowball. They can have that snowball effect where the game gets out of hand really quick because you start to play to not make mistakes instead of playing to just go out there and play your basketball. I thought Springfield, especially, I don't have the quarter breakdown. I wish I did. But I would assume that the most turnovers came in the second quarter, because I think this was the one where the Eagles really made their separation and really won the game. Because you look at the first half, they lead by 7 after 1, 12-5. Kind of like I said, it was the first quarter where both teams were trying to kind of find their footing and shake off the nerves. That second quarter, when they went from 12-5 to 24-8, was big. Because the rest of the game, except for the last 3 minutes where Coach Battizi kind of put some of his reserves in to give them the experience of Dayton, where Toledo Christian obviously was able to score a handful of points down the stretch to extend their lead. It didn't get too much bigger than 16 in the second half. I think the largest lead with both teams starting 5 on the floor that it got to was maybe 24. So it really Springfield really woke up in the second half. They scored 8 in the first half. They scored 19. They scored 20. Yeah, 19. No, 21. Sorry. They scored 21 in the second, so they more than doubled their first half production on offense. They made really good adjustments in the locker room offensively. And I thought, I said on the broadcast as well, but for those of you that weren't able to tune in, I thought one of the biggest adjustments they made were they kind of attacked more in the first half. I think they were playing a little bit, like I said, afraid to make mistakes in the first half. And they realized that in the second half, if we have any chance of getting back in this game, we have to forget about trying not to make mistakes and just go attack. They were up against a 2-1-2 zone for the most part that was trapping the wings and putting a lot of pressure on the ball. The only way to beat the zone, well, not the only way, but the best way to beat the zone is to penetrate it. You got to drive right to the hoop, and Springfield was starting to kind of understand that. They had some drives from Ava Vecchione that were really good. One of them actually was an amazing drive right through the defense, got a wide open layup out of it. But they really started to understand the attack mentality that was needed to beat this Toledo Christian team. And that's why the second half kind of makes me feel like if in the state championship game, just kind of spitball, but if in the state championship game when they come up against Tri Village in the championship, if Tri Village is able to just attack for 4 quarters, then I don't think Toledo Christian is an unbeatable team. I'm not. My takeaway this game, although Butler and Braden really impressed me, and I said they made some really good plays, I don't think Toledo Christian was that much better than Springfield on paper, on players. I just think this was a difference maker of one team unable to, how do I want to word this? Unable to kind of get into that attack mentality quick enough. I think Springfield proved in the second half that they could attack the zone. They had players that could get right through that zone. They didn't turn the ball over as much in the second half, minus the first minute or so of the third quarter. I feel like the Tigers proved in that second half that they could play with this team. Just being down 16 at halftime was detrimental to anything that was going to be trying to make this game competitive. One of the other things I want to talk about before we come off of recapping this game, and then we'll go into just how special this season was for Springfield. I think in every game at this level, especially state, but even regionals too, because we're going to talk about Cheney's game as well. There are turning points in this game where even if the margin is as big as it was last night, 57-29 the final score, there are points in the game where you can say, now that's a turning point that could have made this game competitive. I think both teams obviously belong on the floor. So I don't think you don't see too many games at this level where you say that team was just so much better that the other team didn't really have a chance. And I thought the Tigers had their chances, especially in the first quarter, to really make this a competitive game. And like I said, just a couple of missed opportunities here and there. And I think if those would have fallen in, if those shots would have gone, the Tigers would have maybe relaxed a little bit, maybe got into that attack mentality a little bit sooner than the third quarter. Who knows? This is how sports go sometimes, and you go out there, you try your best. Noah and I made the good point that the effort was never gone for the Tigers till the buzzer went off, even the kids that got in. And another big point, and I want to make sure I'm right on this, every senior on the team scored at least once last night. So they're all able to, in their career, with points in state. Manny Lesnack had 3. Let's see. JC Mullen obviously had a double-double. The only player on the game, by the way, we didn't even talk about that. 10 points, 10 rebounds, our YSN player of the year. The only player in the game to get a double-double. She averages a double-double on the season, so no shocker there. So she scored 10. You had Peyton Clem, who got into the game, and she scored 3. And I thought Emily Gerthung hit a shot, but she didn't. So 3 out of the 4 seniors scored. Gerthung got to play for the last 4.5 minutes on the floor. So all the seniors got time on the floor. And that's good to see because they put so much work into this program. They kind of are the backbone of why Springfield was able to get to Dayton, and to see all of them get their time on the floor was really a special moment. I was hoping that Coach Matizzi would have the opportunity to do that. That was one of the things that me and Noah talked about yesterday too on the show, making sure that seniors got their due. But with that being said, that was the final score. Once again, 57-29. Toledo Christian ends Springfield's season. And Toledo Christian, congratulations, they are going on to the state championship game on Saturday. Springfield ends the season at 24-4, their final record. And they have won 45 games in the last 2 seasons, both of them the first 2 years under head coach John Matizzi. And they do lose 4 seniors. And they lose JC Mullen, who has been the best player to come through any basketball program and will go down as one of the best athletes to go through Springfield, period. So they lose her, they lose Maddie Lesnack, but they are bringing back a lot of key players next year too. 3 out of the 5 starters will be back with Vecchione, Brungard, and Toscano. Obviously, they're going to have a couple of other players that are going to step up. Mon is really good. Their JV team really did look good this year in the times that I was able to watch them play. So I think there are some players that have been patiently waiting in the mold to come up and be a really good basketball team. And Coach Matisse has proven that the defensive scheme that he implements into that program is going to keep them in games no matter how much they're able to score. They have a great defense. They're going to have scorers on offense, though. Jamaica Brungarden is going to continue to develop as a post. I'm excited to see what the future of Springfield holds in the basketball side of things. And for some of those seniors, we say goodbye. For some of them, we will see them in the softball and track season in the spring. So we can't wait to see all of them and see what they do in their last season as a Tiger in the spring. But for now, we say goodbye to the basketball season, a historic run for the Tigers, the best basketball season that they have had in program history, not just with how far they went in the tournament, but with how many games they were able to win. And it was also their first conference championship in quite some time as well. I think they shared with South Range when they were the ITCL back in 2015, if I'm not mistaken. So it's been 8 years. It was back when Callie Ford was a senior, back in the Springfield Memory Banks. Man, some really good players have come through that program. Callie Ford, so good. Went to Westminster to play it. Now, this is how my brain works. This is what you get for tuning into Running Point. This is what you sign up for. Westminster, I think Callie Ford went to. It definitely was a packed school, but I'm pretty sure it was Westminster that she went to play after college. What a player she was back in the day, and she was a part of the last conference championship that the Lady Tigers were able to grab before this season. But congratulations again. Now that I'm off my tangent to the Tigers on a great season, we will move on to the regional semifinals as Cheney got into a really big battle with Akron Buckle. We said it yesterday when we were previewing it on Running Point. These two teams were so evenly matched, and they proved out that as Buckle was able to win, unfortunately for the Ysn family, 62-56. But what a game! The start was all Buckle. They went out and got off to a 13-point lead in the first half, 11-point lead at halftime. One of the big reasons why, when you were watching that game, first half struggles to just put the ball in the hoop for Cheney. They were not shooting well. Shot under 30% in the first half. Those are shots that they are usually able to make. So their offense just wasn't able to score like they're used to in the first half. They dug themselves a 13-point deficit, but I think they kind of proved that like they could play with this team, and they came back and they tied the game in the second half with about 5 minutes to go in the game. They were able to tie it. Excuse me. They were able to tie it with about 5 minutes to go in the game. But then down the stretch, in stages like this, it comes down to who's going to make those game-winning plays. Who's going to make those game-winning plays down the stretch? You know the plays I'm talking about. You know, the ones that are like gut check time, maybe the ones that put you up by 2 possessions, the free throws that put you up by 2 possessions, those kind of plays, who's going to make them? And it was the Griffins that kind of pulled it together after giving up a 13-point lead. And, you got to give your hats off to a team that's able to do that. Not too many teams are able to keep their calm, cool, and collected after giving up a 13-point lead in the regional semis at this stage with this much on the line. And to be able to take their collective breath and just say, let's push through, survive this game. Man, how many teams at every level do we see not survive, give up a lead because they just can't fight back that momentum? We've seen it on the girls' basketball side. Springfield came back from 2 big fourth quarter deficits in their tournament run. We've seen a lot of leads evaporate, and the other team on the other side just unable to kind of get their footing and fight back and have a counterpunch to these runs. Buckle was able to do that. They're not a YSN family school, so obviously we weren't rooting for them last night, but I think we have done a good job in our company's history of giving credit where credit is due. And I was really impressed with Buckle's ability to absorb that run and absorb all that momentum and then make game-winning type plays down the stretch to end this game and survive that lead being evaporated. That's a special ability to do that. You don't see it too often, like I said, especially at this level when you're talking about young athletes with the ability to have that kind of mental toughness to bounce back from giving up a 13-point lead and just finding ways to win down the stretch in the fourth quarter. Doesn't happen too often. Buchtel, congratulations on that. That is a tip of the hat to you. But back to Cheney, I talked about how much they shot unwell, or they didn't shoot well in the first half. Second half, a completely different story. They shot over 50% in the second half. Jason Hewlett really put the team on his back, scored 19 points. He was talking after the game. Um, and the other 15, he felt like they left 15 points on the board. I think Jason Hewlett, one of the things that I love about this kid is he's very self-reflective, and he's able to kind of, when things go wrong, you see a lot of these kids kind of find someone to point the finger at, or find some way that it wasn't the team's fault, it wasn't their fault. And I'm not saying that this loss was Jason Hewlett's fault, but I'm saying like it's really good that I love that he's able to take ownership of the first half as a team. Like he's able to put that on his team and say, we left points on the board. Like that's on us. It's not on the refs. It's not on the coaching. It's not on the anything outside. We left points on the board in the first half. We dug ourselves a hole and we couldn't fight back from that. And I think, going into a Division One athlete, obviously he's going to be a Division One athlete. Going into that, having that ability to just take ownership of results is going to be so important into the future of that young man's career. I was really impressed with his ability to take ownership of this loss. Whether it was, never all his fault, but it doesn't matter because he's a captain and he kind of took accountability. And I love it. I love it. I love players that are able to do that at a young age. Once again, both these teams showing a lot of maturity, from a young basketball team and this stage with a lot of emotions running high, a lot of maturity on the floor last night. Buchtel's maturity came through in the results. And I thought Cheney's maturity came through in how they responded to the results after the game. I was really impressed with what I saw from that. But like I said, they shot over 50% in the second half. Back to the basketball side of things. I also told you that Hewlett scored 19 to lead them. But you just can't dig yourself a 13-point hole. And Cheney fought back. They kind of ran out of gas. I think down the stretch of the fourth quarter, despite shooting over 50%, that shooting percentage could have been a lot bigger if they hit a couple of shots down the stretch in the last 5 minutes of the game. I would say running out of gas is a really good way to word Cheney's last minutes of the fourth quarter. Felt like they spent so much energy trying to get back in the game. They didn't have enough to kind of finish the job. But that's also credit to Buchtel. Like I said before, you don't need a lot of energy if the other team is deflated from your momentum. And we've seen a lot of that. Like fatigue isn't a factor when the other team kind of just folds. Buchtel never folded. Cheney needed everything they had to get through that last couple minutes, and they just used too much energy to get back in the game. They couldn't fight off the other counterpunch from Buchtel. Final score for this one was 62-29. 62-56. Excuse me. I was thinking the Springfield final score was 29. 62-56, your final score. Jamie Thompson will have a really good write-up and a recap on the website very soon where he will break down all the facets of the game. He was on the call, did a great job covering Cheney all season. It's unfortunate that we have to say goodbye to such a great team with so many good athletes. But I want to give props to Jamie Thompson for doing a great job covering them all year. One of the things I love about YSN is we have announcers that kind of back these teams. And we saw Noah Doty with Springfield, and the way he was getting amped up about last night's game. He was with the Tigers all season. Jamie Thompson has been with Cheney all season. All couple years now he's been with the Cowboys. And props to him for building those relationships and not going away and not finding another team or anything like that. Just sticking with Cheney and giving them a voice, giving them someone they can rely on to be at every game. We don't just pick and choose every Cheney home game we were at. So props to Jamie Thompson for putting in all the work. He does a great job with his recaps. Hopefully you're able to read it here in a little bit. Go on the website, check out his Cheney recaps. He puts so much work into not just calling the game, but writing a story afterwards. Want to give him his flowers after he's done with the basketball season. We hope to see him and his wonderful voice more in the baseball season as well. David Williams was also on the call last night. His kind of sidecar, David Williams, has been doing a really good job for us as well at YSN. And he's really locked on to Jamie Thompson. And that's a good partnership, I think. A good guy that's been here for a couple of years and guy that's kind of new to the YSN scene. I've loved watching those two work together and hearing them work together. Congratulations on a great season, boys, on the mic side of things, on the broadcasting side of things. You guys have put in a lot of work covering this Cheney basketball program. We see you at YSN, and we appreciate all the work that you've put into this season. With that being said, that wraps up our kind of recaps of last night. We want to once again just congratulate Cheney and Springfield on a great season. The loss in this round does not take away from the things that you were able to do. And we were going to just kind of look forward to one more basketball game, hopefully a couple more. Hoban playing in the regional finals tonight at Kent State University against Walsh Jesuit. So I texted Ty Bartell last night, and I told him, you are the last man standing. And that is true. He is the last one with the basketball team to cover. He'll be at Kent State tonight to cover Hoban. We'll talk about that game, and we'll preview that, and we'll also talk about some postseason awards to announce when we come back from this commercial break on Running Point, brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown. Be right back.
When looking for home design inspiration, don't just be inspired, be Baird inspired. Whether new or remodeling, Baird Brothers has the latest trends like shiplap to refresh your home. Go from inspiration to installation with our wide selection of in-stock American hardwoods. From the rustic charm of antique oak to the warmth of traditional cherry, Baird Brothers has what you need to make your home inspiring. Baird Brothers, our family's heritage, your family's home.
Quality, customer service, and integrity. Those are the 4 words that have driven our success since 1957 at Joe Dickey Electric.
Joe Dickey Electric is one Mahoning Valley landmark business that stays current with the requirements of our customers. Family owned and managed, we are an electrical contractor and energy solutions provider. Every member of our team adds to his or her skill set through ongoing training. Residential, commercial, industrial, automotive, and more. We keep ahead of the needs of our customers with a fleet of more than 50 vehicles and 24/7 emergency service, so you're never left in the dark.
WRS Wealth Advisors, the area's premier wealth and retirement specialists. Located on South Avenue in Boardman.
Your teams work hard and give it all they've got. Well, so does ours, because 21 Sports and YSN give you extra effort when covering local sports. 21 Sports and YSN, winning coverage of our Valley's teams.
Hi.
21 News delivers the news as it happens, using the latest technology from where it happens.
Live here outside the Mahoning County.
On air, online.
Wednesday afternoon weather update.
Very dangerous.
And on the 21 News social media platforms.
I'm on the road right now.
21 News, the Valley's only locally owned source for trusted news since 1953.
As fine as the eye can see, the finest hardwoods from the finest trees. Made for your home and within your means, Baird Brothers will help fulfill your dreams. Let life and light come shining through in quiet morns. And heavy traffic, too. Find your easy-to-afford fine hardwood floors and doors and more at BairdBrothers.com.
Every customer has a story, and at Greenwood Chevrolet, we are committed to making sure it ends with you in the right vehicle. I get to be part of somebody's adventure, whether it's buying a car for the first time, helping them get approved, or finding the perfect car for their budget. I'm proud that people trust me with their finances. They trust me to take care of them, and they trust me with their story. I'm Tracy, and I'm ready to go the extra mile for you only at Greenwood Chevrolet.
Welcome back to Running Point on ysnlive.com, brought to you as always by our good friends over at Greenwood Chevrolet in Austin Town. They go the extra mile for you, and we try to do the same here every day on this show and at YSN. We thank them as always for their constant support of this show and everything that we do at YSN. We couldn't do it without them and our wonderful sponsors at YSN. If you want to be a sponsor at YSN and get your company out there, great time to do it because we're gearing up for the spring season. So if you want to get your business out there for the spring softball baseball season, make sure to go to ysnlive.com/advertise. Fill out that paperwork, that little form that's on that page, and we'll get right back to you with trying to work something out. It's really easy to fill out, and we've always said it. We think that YSN is the great value for your advertisement. You get a lot of bang for your buck. We have had so many games, I think over well over 200 basketball games, and we're trying to have that benchmark for the baseball softball season as well. And every time we do a game, your commercial, your logo gets in rotation. So no better way to advertise your business than on YSN. Once again, if you are interested in that, go to ysnlive.com/advertise. All the information on how you can get to start your partnership with YSN is there. We have postseason awards to talk about. We've released the Freshman of the Year on YSN. We'll just go over them. Sam Greer from Hoban wins it on the boys' side, and Addison Rhodes wins it on the girls' side from Crestview. Those are players that have made immense impacts on their team first season out of the gates. So Freshman of the Year has been announced. We've released Defensive Player of the Year. Cammie Rome from Salem on the girls' side. Jaden Payne from Ursuline on the boys' side. We released Offensive Player of the Year, best scorers in the YSN family. Abby Davidson from the Quakers gets it on the girls' side. And on the boys' side, Duncan Moy, 24 points per game. How do you do, young man? Badger runs on Duncan. Yes, it does. The junior Brave wins the Offensive Player of the Year on YSN. Yesterday, we released our most valuable players. JC Mullen from Springfield wins it from the girls. Double-double in the state semifinals. Do you have to say anything less? No, I don't think you do. JC Mullen is a double-double machine and averaged a double-double on the season. Many reasons why she deserved that most valuable player award. On the boys' side, Will Aljancic, 22 points per game, 5.5 rebounds per game. What a great leader we have seen Will Aljancic turn into over the last couple years of covering Louisville basketball. Talent-wise, not too many players better than Will Aljancic either. But I think the intangibles are the one that won it for him. The leadership and what he's done for that basketball program. And the way you're going to see his fingerprints on the program after he's gone are one of the big reasons why we saw Will Aljancic win MVP on the boys' side. But now we got our last two, right? We have Coach of the Year on YSN, both sides, and we have Team of the Year, something that we've introduced in the fall season that we are continuing to give out here in the basketball season. We kind of gave it in the football year. We thought it was a fun award to give out, just a team award, maybe the one that was we thought was the best basketball team in the YSN family. So we're going to start off with the coaches of the year. We're announcing them here on the show. They'll be posted on our social media page as well in a bit if you missed this episode. But here is your coaches of the year. We'll start with the girls and talk about it after. Drum roll, please. Don't have drums, but here you go. Coach of the year on the girls' side. Yes, it is Aaron Gilbert from Garrettsville, Garfield. Wow. I mean, what a season Garfield had. You look at the expectations from the outside of Garfield girls basketball coming into the season. You'll lose Jenna Smith. You'll lose Sydney Seaman. You'll lose Sarah Seaman. That is like 85. This is a number I'm just throwing out. I have no actual numbers to back this up. Had to be 85, 90% of their offensive output in those three easily. But what do? You come back, you win the MVAC. I should say you share it, but you still win it. and you go back to a regional championship, regional semifinal for the third consecutive year. And a lot of that has to do with the stability that Aaron Gilbert has brought to this program. We talked to him on Running Point a lot, and one of the things that he always says when we ask him, how has your program come into so much success? And he simply says, stability. He's been there for a while. And if you want to build a program to a point where it is not reloading, but just retooling themselves, and then you gotta be there. You gotta be there for years. You gotta pour into the youth. You gotta pour into the JVs. You gotta pour into the program as much as you can. And Aaron Gilbert does that immensely. What a coach! What a season Garfield had. They came in, like I said, a lot of people thought, hey, you lost so much offense. What are you going to do? And all they did was bring in a freshman, Mandy Cardinal. Madeline Shirkey stepped up and made huge improvements as a freshman, and not as a senior point guard. Mandy Cardinal was a freshman. Laura McCoy came in, found a home for Garfield. A lot of people will say, well, yeah, okay, you brought in McCoy. That's a cheat code. But you don't just plug in players and say they're going to automatically gel with everybody and they're going to fit. One, I think Coach Gilbert is a big component in making sure that the synchronization and the chemistry of the team stayed intact, and being able to take a new group of faces and have them still be a unit. That's coaching. I don't care what you say. Like, that is coaching. Talent alone does not win basketball games. We saw that in the Division III regional finals with that Laurel team that beat Garfield. They were the most talented team in that region by far. Do not argue with me on that. They had more talent than anybody. Who beat them? Chippewa. Why? Because Chippewa was a better team. They were a better unit. They were a more organized group of girls. They were more disciplined, and they beat Laurel because of it. They were not as talented as Laurel. I promise you that. I promise you. No one reasonable in the state of Ohio that knows girls basketball would watch those two teams on film and say that Laurel was not the most talented team in that region, maybe in the state in Division III, period, with the players they put on the floor. They didn't win. It kind of proves to you that talent doesn't buy you a championship. So I don't care if you want to say, well, okay, he got a stud freshman and he got Laura McCoy to come in. That I don't care. No, that's coaching. To take that into win a MVAC and win another district, it's coaching. Coaching has a lot to do with it, especially at this level at high school. I know coaches get a lot of flack for being the figurehead of sports in the professional realms, because those guys are so good, especially in basketball. In the NBA, you don't really need a coach. But in high school, different story. You're not going to be consistently good without a good coach. I will stand by that. I will plant my flag into that hill. So Aaron Gilbert, congratulations, man. Great coach. He coached in our All-Star game last year, did a phenomenal job with that. We can't wait to see him there. And man, what a great job he's done with this group. And he has a lot to look forward to next season. One last thing I want to say about Garfield that I think people don't really appreciate with the successful season that the three players I mentioned had. The development of a couple of other players that were not familiar at all with the varsity level, and not, I shouldn't say at all, but not familiar at all with the weight that was put on their shoulders at the varsity level this year, the amount of minutes they played. Nora Trent and Maggie Fogel, what we saw out of them, that is another example of really good coaching out of Garfield. Maggie Fogel putting into the starting lineup, and Nora Trent first off the bench for most of those games. They both did tremendously good jobs this season. What a jump from last year to this year for both those girls. And that is coaching. That is coaching too. And you can't undervalue the importance of players like that. We talked to Maggie Fogel right before their regional semifinal. She was our last player profile. You could hear it in her voice, hear the maturity that she's been able to build. And when, the things that she said about how Coach Gilbert has helped her build those things, this is another feather in his cap in this conversation. So once again, congratulations to Aaron Gilbert. the 2023 Girls Coach of the Year. We're going to go on to the boys side of things. Boys Coach of the Year. Drum roll again. Here we go. Here is your 2023 Boys Basketball Coach of the Year. Sorry, I thought that would come right back to me. It is TJ Irons from South Range. I mean, hey, you start 0-5. They had a lot of adversity in that program. TJ Irons steps up in a big way for them, comes in, and all they do after that start is they go and they win the 88 for the first time in program history. I mean, what he did for that program, just forget about the X's and O's and the results. Just seeing that program is in need, and we've talked to a handful of their players. They all are super familiar with him because he's been kind of in the background of this program since they were little in elementary school. So obviously he cares so deeply about South Range and about this basketball team. He's been an assistant. He's been a junior high coach. To be able to step up like that in a position that he didn't expect to this year. I mean, he took a leave of absence from the high school coaching. He wasn't on the staff to begin the season. He thought he was going to have the year off, but he didn't care when his team needed him, when those players needed him, his program that he cares about so much needed somebody to step up in a big way. TJ Irons was the first person to take that big step and say, I will do it. And that is very commendable because there were probably not a lot of people that would be willing to step into that after the start they had. I mean, there really weren't. All the stuff that was going on, not a lot of people that would be that person to step forward. But I am a strong believer that those people that step forward are the ones that shine the brightest, or the ones that you look to in the darkest hours. The ones are that are stepping forward no matter what is kind of going on. And Coach Irons, it was a tough ask to take this team and turn them into a NE8 champion. And he did it. And I think one of the biggest ways he did it was getting everyone to kind of come together, and the players did this too. I mean, we talked to the players, the fact that everyone just said, hey, forget about everything outside of our little circle. And our little circle is the 20 people in this room. Nothing else matters at all. And that's starting by the coach buying into that, and then the players buy into that. So impressed with his ability to turn this team into a unit. Every game they won because they were a unified basketball team. You don't go 9-0 in one possession games without trusting everybody on the floor to do their job. You don't win that with hero ball. I mean, if you're playing hero ball, you might win 2 or 3 of those games with just a, hey, I'm going to take a step away 3 at the buzzer. You might win a couple of those. You don't go 9-0 in one possession games unless you absolutely trust everybody to do their job and show up in those moments. And every player on the floor trusted their teammates to go out and do their job. That's what was impressive about this Raider basketball team. They won all those 9 games in different ways. There was a couple of them they won with a defensive stand, especially that Springfield game. I called this one. Springfield had the ball with 30 seconds left. All they had to do was score, and the Raiders continued to, okay, Tigers have to call a timeout. Now they have 12 seconds left. Tigers have to call another timeout. Now they have 7 seconds left. They didn't get a shot off. That's how good that defense was. In that moment, when you watch that defensive possession, it nails home my point, because everyone in that possession was just doing their job. They weren't trying to overplay. They didn't try to go outside of their responsibility. They just went out and did their job in that defensive possession. And I think that play, that possession, if I had to pick one moment in South Range's basketball season this year that defined them as a team, it would be that final possession in the Springfield game, honestly. And I'm just figuring out now, like just talking through it, because like I said, the identity of that team was togetherness and unification and trust. And that defensive possession does not happen unless everyone is out there just doing their own job and trusting their other teammates around them that they are doing their job too. No one once stepped out of their position to try to help someone they didn't trust that could guard that player one-on-one. If that would have happened for a second, I guarantee Springfield scores in that game and at least puts the Raiders in the opportunity where they have to score to win. I guarantee it. I guarantee that would have happened because Springfield has too much talent to be left out of position. But not one single Raider basketball player in that defensive stand lost position because they all trusted each other. I think that's the key. But boom, that's the key. Boom, right there, right there. Picture of South Range basketball. Just turn on the last 30 seconds of the Springfield game. TJ Aaron's big reason for the unity, big reason for the strength, and we commend him for stepping up when it was hard to step up. It's easy to be a leader when things are going right, right? Who steps up when things aren't going right? So we commend TJ Irons. We wanted to make sure he got his due, and he gets the Coach of the Year on the boys' side. Now we go to Team of the Year. Team of the Year on the girls. And here you go. Drum roll, please. The 2023 Girls Basketball Team of the Year. Canfield Cardinals. How do you do? You get to the regional finals in Division II. They played, according to Martin RPI, the third hardest schedule across every Division II team in the state. They still only had one loss at the end of the regular season. After all that, what a tremendous basketball team. This is one of the biggest reasons why we had this. There really wasn't a player in discussion for MVP only because there wasn't one player on that basketball team that shined brighter than everybody else. There wasn't one player that you said, man, they're carrying this team. It wasn't like that. They had four players that averaged over 7 points per game, and their leading scorer was Abby McElroy with 9.8. So you had 9.88. I think I'm trying to do this off memory. 9.8 for McElroy. Solly had 8.8. Treveri had 8.1, and I think Harmon had like 7.9. So those were your four leading scorers. So balanced, such a balanced team. That would have made them so hard to defend because you couldn't go out there and say, we're going to shut down Abby McElroy and their offense won't be able to do anything. Salem did not let Abby McElroy score, but Canfield still won that game because players like Kate Solly, players like Jenna Treveri, players like Carly Harmon step up in big ways for that team and score when they have to. They are a unit. They are a team. They are a very balanced basketball team this year. That is why they win Team of the Year in my book. You mix that with the fact that they played the toughest schedule probably in the YSN family. Definitely, according to Martin RPI, the third toughest schedule in Division II across the state of Ohio. They were ranked third in the RPI for the state of Ohio as well. 25-1. Their one loss in the regular season was to Salem. They avenged that in the district championship. And all honestly, I think the winner of that game probably would have gotten a lot of votes either way, because everyone at YSN was pretty high on both those teams. And it might. I'm not going to say this for sure. I can't speak for everybody. But I feel like it would have probably come down to the winner of that game getting Team of the Year. And Canfield was the one that came out on top of that one. They won a game in regionals as well. They went to the regional finals. Unfortunately, they fell to Northwest, who won last night, by the way, and they are going to the state championship. But what a season for Canfield. Their first district championship in 10 years. They're led by a great coach in Matt Reel. They have great leaders on the team. And like I said, they're so balanced. They're so balanced. So Canfield is your 2023 Girls Basketball Team of the Year. We have time for one more. And guess what? We have one more award to give out. It is the Boys Basketball 2023 Team of the Year. Drum roll, please. Here you go. Boys Basketball Team of the Year is... It's Ursuline. I mean, this was one of the ones that was like in the bank. I mean, Ursuline was just so fun to watch this year. I think everyone agrees from on paper, most talented team that we have on the YSN family. What a great run they had. Of course, didn't end the way they wanted it to, but we don't pick this award on just one game, right? So, Ursuline just, man, they're a great basketball team. So much talent on the floor. So much talent on the floor. They were so hard to defend. They were one of the best offenses we had stat-wise at YSN. We looked into that. But then one of the things that won them the Team of the Year was their defensive numbers were among the top teams in the YSN family as well. We talked about that when we talked about Jayden Payne winning Defensive Player of the Year and how much of a defensive-minded coach Keith Gunther is. And despite the offensive talent, one of the things that made Ursuline so special and so hard to beat, only lost one regular season game this year, and that was to Canfield. What made them so hard to beat was the fact that despite their offensive talent and despite their ability to go out there and a lot of players be able to score wherever they want on the floor at any given time, none of those players slouched on defense. Not one of them bought into the idea that we could just go out there and outscore a team. How many times did they get into really high scoring, just back and forth games? It didn't happen too often. Usually when they scored a lot, they were beating teams by a lot. They didn't get into a lot of barn burners. The district championship subsiding. Gilmore Academy got into a running match with them. Gilmore Academy won that. Props to Gilmore Academy. But Ursuline did not make a habit of letting that happen too often. They were solid on defense, solid on offense, a really well-rounded basketball team. They only lost once, like I said. They're really hard to beat. Their schedule was brutal, like it always is. Ursuline is just known for putting together a really tough schedule, no matter what the sport is. Basketball was no different. They played a lot of really good basketball teams, and they won a lot more than they lost. It's been a fun ride for Ursuline. We thank them for their ability to let us be a part of their ride. And once again, congratulations for them making the 2023 YSN Team of the Year. These will be released on social media right after this show. So, if you missed it, catch it on there, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all that fun stuff. But that'll do it for today's episode of Running Point on this wonderful but rainy, I just looked at the window, rainy Friday. TGIF, we want to let you know that you can tune in to tonight's regional final, Hoban versus Walsh Jesuit from Kent State University. Ty Bartell on the call. 9 to 9 gets you access. Hopefully next week we can come back and still talk a little bit of basketball and have one team in the state tournament on the boys' side. They're the last team standing. Last hit. So what could be our last basketball game, but we hope it won't be. In the regional finals tonight, once again, from Kent State, Ty Bartell on the call. One payment and then 9 gets you access to that game. We hope you enjoy it. We hope you enjoy the weekend. We'll be back on Monday for more Running Point on YSN, brought to you as always